All right, welcome to the D-Cliff Training Pain Podcast, Episode 2. What we're talking about today is the conventional knee rehab process, specifically for certain diagnoses like chondromalacia, tendonitis, and osteoarthritis. Some of these things that get diagnosed and are very disempowering and are kind of daunting for the rest of your life. I think there are a lot of things that I wish I did differently throughout that process. And there is hope. For sure, there is hope because, again, I'm athletic. I'm more athletic now than I was in 2012, which was supposedly supposed to be my prime. And that is the period of time when they told me that it would never get better and that I had the knees of an 80-year-old person. I should avoid stairs. I should avoid running outside. I should just avoid the game altogether if it was going to cause me that level of pain. The pain felt like there was a nail driving through my knee every time I went to use it. So if there was any pressure on the patellar tendon at all, it felt like somebody was just hammering a nail into my knee. That started with the left knee, obviously because of my compensations. The same thing started happening in my right knee. So basically, no more cartilage. It was just bone on bone action every single time I went to get up from a chair or try to do anything. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey and then what I would have loved to have happen differently. I know a couple of people asked me about my basketball career, about what I like and did not like about European basketball. I will get into that. I think maybe that can be like a little fun section to end it, but I want this podcast to be me extending an olive branch for people that are out there experiencing knee pain. You know what I'm saying? So I think I have to give all of my efforts to help them because, again, like pretty much everything I do now is trying to create that service that a younger D-Cliff would have loved. So I will get right into it. Conventional rehab, right? Your knee starts hurting. What is the process? You go to the doctor or a trainer, you ice it right away. And if the problem persists, you get onto pain pills and then you will get an x-ray or an MRI, some sort of imaging. And then you'll get a diagnosis from there. And I think I'm not trying to take down the medical industry anymore. I guess I was pretty butthurt for the first 10 years that I was, actually feeling better and then like, what the hell, like these people screwed me over. I understand that Western medicine has its faults and a lot of people in this space talk at length about that, but honestly, like we all know we need it, you know what I'm saying? Like shit, something happens right now, I'm going to the hospital, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like thanking God that we have those systems in place, you know what I'm saying? How do we balance the holistic approach to sports injuries? I'm not sure, but I know that the things that I'm talking about fit very specifically into the rehab process. And so basically another framework that we have is like doctor's office, physio slash physical therapy slash training room, weight room, and then court slash return to sport. So it's these 4 steps along the process, and it's kind of like benchmarks that you have to hit. You clear everything with the doctor, then you clear everything with physical therapy, then you clear everything in the weight room to get that strength back, depending on how long you've sat out. And then we're talking about entering practice, taking some time to go live during practice, and then entering a game. The problem is there are gaps between each stage of this process. And kind of what I've done is try to figure out where my methods can help most in this process. And I think right now it's kind of like in between the training room and the weight room, where it's like you do leg raises and clamshells with your physical therapist or trainer, and then you're supposed to go into the weight room and perform the same type of squat patterns that you did when you were perfectly healthy. While you're rebuilding your body, that doesn't make too much sense to me. Now, obviously, in this industry, there are great physical therapists that understand that and do a way better job of preparing your body for the weight room stuff. And there are way better strength coaches now that understand that, hey, if you're coming off an injury and you have had to rest for even a month, you have to rebuild your body in a certain way to prepare yourself to get into those compound lifts that we all love to PR in. And that, are scientific driven to return you to absorb and emit force that you need to in basketball court. You know what I'm saying? So like there's a lot of talk in the functional fitness space. There's a lot of like bashing squatting, and I've been one of them. But I do understand it's like, all right, if Cliff has been hurt for 6 months and just doing rehab and he's hit his benchmarks, this dude used to squat 400 pounds. We can't just allow him to go back onto the court knowing that he doesn't squat anymore. So I cannot stress enough the importance of rebuilding your body. And it's okay to regress as much as you want or you feel the need to. And that's kind of the thing that I missed is, again, looking at the body holistically, because I did do everything under the sun to make sure that my knee and quads were back to full strength. The problem is, again, all the imaging and all of the medical focus was on my knee. And so what happened is the dysfunction, like I said in the past, the dysfunction that caused knee pain was happening in my hips and the rest of my kinetic chain, right? So you have a full kinetic chain from the top of your head down to your feet. And all of these things are connected. And just like with any other chain, you're only as strong as your weakest link. If one of these links is not strong enough or not connected enough with the next thing in line, then the whole system is going to crumble. Just like a building, if something in the foundation is not strong enough, then the whole building's coming down. The only difference with our body is it's super good at compensating. Our body is so intelligent and so good at staying safe in the moment that it will figure something out. And that's why certain things happen, and then like a week from now, some compensation that protected me in this moment makes my neck hurt, for months afterwards. And you can look at the neck muscles all you want, but it's like, if the problem started here, our nervous system has to be protected. Our vital organs have to be protected. There are certain things that our body will prioritize, and the knee joint is probably the last in line. So, sorry, I just got way off track. When there's dysfunction that leads to pain, a disruption in the kinetic chain that leads to knee pain, that could be weak glutes, that could be inefficient glute action, right? Obviously the glute is the main muscle that drives our movement. If you're not able to use your glutes efficiently in the way they were designed to, then we are not able to create force with the glutes, and that's going to cause a lot of problems up and down your kinetic chain. Now, when you talk about setting out, what happens is everything starts atrophying. So there's no such thing as maintenance. You're either gaining or losing. So now, over time, all of the leg muscles are going to get weaker. And what happens is their connection to each other is also getting weaker. So you have to look at this as like the muscular system is also like electrical wiring or like a computer system that it loses the ability to synchronize together. So you almost have to, one, build the muscles back, but two, you have to resynchronize this whole entire program. And that's the problem with the rehab process that I would have loved to change. I think the best piece of advice that I could give somebody is that if you have pain in your knee, if you have chronic pain in one part of your body, it is most likely not that part's fault. So if you have chronic knee pain, I'm not talking about acute injuries, that is something totally separate. If you're experiencing chronic pain in your knees, it is most likely the system putting more force on the knees than necessary. So if your body is not able to withstand or create force every time you step or jump or cut, then something's got to give. So that force is going to go somewhere, and if it goes into the knees, then it's going to dwindle away all the soft tissue in there. And that is the cartilage, and that is the tendons, and that is how you get arthritis, chondromalacia, bone-on-bone action, loss of cartilage, all those other things. Now, what I think we don't understand as a whole entire industry is how to get that part of the body to actually regenerate. Because in my mind, cartilage is just another soft tissue. It is just way more stubborn, right? It is the last line of defense in between bones. So it's going to have to be stubborn. It's stubborn to go away and it's stubborn to go back. But there is medical evidence that cartilage does regenerate. We just don't see it a lot because, again, the dysfunction in my body that causes that bone-on-bone action has already been programmed in me long enough to where, like, we don't see a lot of cases of people just switching all of their postural habits so that they can actually alleviate their knees. And that is exactly what I'm doing because I saw this process work for myself and with many others. And now I understand that it doesn't matter what type of pain, what type of chronic pain that you are dealing with in your knee, there are ways to get your body to regenerate. And over time, the cartilage will come back. You'll have less of that bone on bone action. You will be able to move using the rest of your body without smashing all of your force through your knees. And that goes with any other body part. So again, my process, when I started feeling pain, the first thing they told me to do was ice it. And that happens all the time. And in general, when I have conversations with people, I say no ice. That's the first change that I make is stop icing it. Stop doing everything that numbs the pain. Like, we have to understand that we're going to have to work with pain. Like, this is a relationship that you want to improve in your body. This is not just like lock pain outside and just ignore it for the rest of your life. So what ice does is it just stops blood flow. And that's obviously why is your knee getting inflamed, or why is blood rushing through the area? Why is your knee hot? It's because your body is sending blood to the area. That is a natural healing mechanism that brings nutrients to the area that has been damaged. So I don't understand why anybody would want to stop that process. I think systemically you can hop in an ice bath or do whatever. There's a lot of good hormonal things that come out of that. But local icing, think of your knee as just a big ass intersection. If you stop the blood flow and the nutrient delivery in that intersection and you cause a huge traffic jam, then the whole recovery process is just going to be prolonged. So instead of getting home from work in 30 minutes, it takes 3 hours. And so think about day after day what that does to your recovery process. So the first thing I do is, if you have knee pain, it means that something in the system is going wrong. And we need to fix that. But it doesn't mean we can't just like stop feeling pain. You know what I'm saying? Because that is going to be our little roadmap or our guide throughout this process. And I feel the same way about pain pills. It's like, yeah, if your body is working terribly and you have this joint pain everywhere and you just can pop a few pills and feel like you're going to run through a wall, that is not good for your body or mind long term at all. And that's not what we're trying to do here. We are trying to fix the way your body moves so that you don't have to feel excess force in any specific place. Foot, that goes for the foot people, the knee people, the hips, the lower back, the neck, the ribs, every single thing. Our body should be absorbing force as a system, and that way it can handle it as a system and no one part has to carry the burden. Again, in this process, I wore knee sleeves and knee braces. Those didn't work at all. Then I get shots. So I got, two common types of injections are the hyaluronic acid, which is just the gel that they say is going to like cushion things in there. I think if it's bringing in some nutrients, it'll help, but so does eating some fruit, you know what I'm saying? And then PRP injections, I think that's the same thing. If you can do these things if it makes you feel good. I would not like to stick another needle in my knee. I have a weird story about that. I have two weird stories about that. But I would not like these short-term solutions just because it's like, you bring new blood into the area and that just heals everything. Say it heals everything, literally. And then why does your knee hurt in the first place? It is because of that dysfunction that led to the bone on bone or whatever was happening in there. So something went wrong in the way that you moved and that created pain. And you have a solution but did not fix the way you move. So now you're gonna go move the same way and it's gonna create the same result, which is pain. That's why you can get injections. I mean, most people that get injections get them all the time and they are on a schedule, and I would not like to do that. I'll tell you one of the injection stories. So one of my injections, my sophomore year at BC, 2012, I was getting weekly injections and they did hyaluronic acid a bunch of times, they did PRP, they did cortisone, they did a whole bunch of shit, and they were just shooting this shit up into my knee all the time. So at one time, the doctor broke the needle in my knee and that shit was in my knee for like a couple minutes while they tried to figure out like how to get that shit out of there. And when I tell you about traumatic experiences, like that was damn near top 3. I've been through a lot in this like injury process, but damn, just sitting there like feeling like I was like being electrocuted. I don't know, it must have hit a nerve or something, but also seeing the needle break. I'm sorry if anybody's like twitchy out there about this stuff, but yeah, seeing that break inside my knee, and I was just like, what the hell did you do? And it was like, they like got some tweezers or something and like pulled it out and everything was fine, but I was just like, made me lose a lot of trust. And that was a tough time for me. That was just like, dude, like, I'm like, what am I doing here? You know what I'm saying? Like, this shit is crazy, dude. It's like, how low can you go to? Yeah, that was a crazy part of my life. Anyways, back to the conventional knee rehab process. You do all these like strengthening exercises, and again, what I explained is like there's a disconnect between these isolated exercises and like you being able to move on the basketball court. And what's crazy is like, 15 years ago, this was even worse than it is now. Like, they would have me do some small leg extensions and then some leg raises, and then they'd be like, all right, go jog on the court. And like, in my mind now, that sounds crazy. Is like, you do this, and then that's preparing you to do all of this type of functional and dynamic movement with reactions and all this other stuff. And it was wild. And part of the thing that hurt me throughout this whole process is I've always been like, if you give me something to do, I'm gonna do that thing, like 100%. So, they were saying, they would even give me benchmarks of like, you should be able to leg raise with ankle weights up to 15 pounds or something. And you should be able to do these exercises with 15 pounds. I was the type of person I would have 35 pounds on that thing within the next 2 weeks. And I would be like, look at me do this shit. You know what I'm saying? 35 pounds on each ankle, just like quads busting out my fucking shorts. And I was still in a tremendous amount of pain, and I look back and I'm like, all right, I probably shouldn't have had all that weight doing these like useless ass exercises. I don't know if that made me worse or just didn't move the needle at all. But needless to say, there's a lot of other things that you can do in this process. So now we'll compare this to the D-Cliff training knee rehab protocol. And this is exactly what I do in my program. I'm not trying to sell anybody right now. I'm literally, well, first of all, I'm trying to get used to speaking in front of the camera. But second of all, I'm like, again, what I said, this pain podcast, I am trying to reach people because I needed this 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying? I would have loved to hear somebody talk about this. And somebody to tell me what to do, but also somebody to say like, hey, I know shit sucks right now, but it's gonna be okay. You know what I mean? And you know how I know it's gonna be okay. I had a 10-year career after that traumatic knee injury that took forever to rehab out of it. I mean, I was hurt for 2 years, and they were saying that there was no light at the end of the tunnel. I ended up playing for 10 years after that. I was a G League All-Star. I had looks at the league. We can talk about that another time. So, what my process is step one, you gotta learn how to relax. Because I know this pain, and I know feeling this pain signals every time you use your knee, and then you match that up with, shit, I gotta do this in my career, I gotta get back on the court. If I don't, I'll lose my identity, I won't get paid, I won't have a livelihood. I know all those things are going on. You just have to understand that that is a sympathetic nervous response. That is fight or flight. As athletes, that has done us very well of like competition and entering the ring of like one of us coming out alive, it has to be me. That is a good stress response. But you gotta leave that in the ring. You know what I'm saying? You have to leave that stuff on the court, and when you get home, you have to be parasympathetic. You have to be relaxed. That is what it speeds up the recovery process, especially over time. You see what I'm saying? So when we are sympathetic all the time because of our phones, because of poor posture, because of our light environment, because of our diet, because of coping like drugs and alcohol, these things mess up the recovery process. For our body to regenerate the way we want it to, it wants to be relaxed, should be in some nature, and some sunlight, and some good water, and some good food, and some good sleep. If you do those things, you're gonna feel better in general. Like, those things are very important to feel better in general. And so that is step one, is relax and feel better in general. And that's why I put people on the lacrosse ball right away, just because it makes them feel better right away. You know what I'm saying? So it's very important that you do things that make you feel good so that you still have hope. Because I think that is like the main thing that affected me during that time period is Mid 2012, I had no hope. I'm depressed. I wasn't even talking to family and friends. I was just like, I don't even know what to do with my life. This shit sucks so bad. I couldn't even talk about it without getting choked up. And my teammates know that for real. The only time I felt like myself was going out to eat, being with the guys. And that's what's crazy, is it's taken me this long to actually tell that story, which is just like the only time I felt like a normal person and I felt like I belonged, you know what I'm saying? Because you know how daunting an injury that lingers can affect your psychology. So now, like, the locker room that used to be like the place of friendship and camaraderie and like work is now like my worst nightmare. Just walking in there every day, feeling judged, being in pain, not knowing what is going to come next. That was a lot. So back to the process. Step one, calm down. Get on the lacrosse ball, do some breath work, and do some posture chores. I cannot speak about the breath work enough. And for people that haven't tried the Wim Hof method, I would absolutely recommend that right now. I can link the video in the description below, but like most people that join D-Cliff training talk about the breath work week one. They're like, holy shit, like I didn't think that I would feel this good after that. So do that shit right after you watch this video. Step two is meticulous. It is rebuilding your foundation. Again, I've talked a lot about this kind of sporadically, is like you can only build a building as high or as big as this foundation is strong. And so I think what I see trainers do on Instagram is we talk about phase 3 all the time. We talk about adding inches to your vert. We talk about getting faster. We talk about getting stronger. We talk about all these cool new exercises to move weight around. And what I think we are missing as an industry in this process, in this specific process, is the foundational part, which is like, if you're getting hurt, then you obviously need to take a step back before you take steps forward. So you cannot just keep worrying about your squat max or the new exercise to make you jump higher. The way that you have to redesign your body is, again, meticulous. And that goes back to the posture chores that we do. And then honestly, just like trying to rebuild the core around a stacked rib cage and pelvis. And so the core four for me is your T-spine, your deep core muscles, not the six-pack abs, but actually your TVA and your oblique muscles, the things that really help the alignment of the rib cage and the pelvis. So the T-spine, the deep core muscles, the glutes, and then the feet. If you rebuild those four things in this like foundational phase of your rehab, the stronger you build these four things, the healthier you'll be long term, but also the more athletic you're going to become. Like again, like most of the people that are drilling all of these phase 3 exercises on Instagram are just talking about how can we get the glutes stronger and more explosive anyways. And for me, the most important part of that, especially for a person going through this rehab process, is how do we align the pelvis to get the glutes to fire optimally? Because if they are stretched out of their own position, then they don't have that same ability to innervate. Meaning this control center that we have over our muscles, like once we get the thought to fire, we need to generate a lot of power from here, and we need a strong connection to that muscle. So I think that's all I got for now. Perhaps some of these podcasts should be like with the whiteboard so that I can actually be more organized with my thought process, and maybe that can help you guys learn more efficiently, especially for the visual learners. I will answer some of the questions. Well, I guess one of the repeated questions that I had about my basketball career was like what you liked and didn't like about playing overseas. So what I liked, first of all, I liked playing overseas, and I'm very glad I did it. And if I got the chance to do it again, if I got the chance to do it all over, I would, for sure. I liked obviously playing at a high level and making a lot of money. Like I was obviously trying to get into the NBA. I was not good enough. You can blame the injuries, you can blame whatever you want. I tell people I'm not good enough. And I wasn't good enough, that's why I went overseas. Maybe if I wasn't hurt, I would have been able to work out more without worrying, and that would have allowed me more chances, but that doesn't mean that I would have just made the NBA. And I don't like when people say that. It's like, if I didn't get hurt, I would have done this and this and this. And it's like, we never know. We will never know. So I loved getting along with my teammates. I thought I played with some of the coolest people from around the world. I mean, I still keep in touch with some of the guys. Like, the Americans over there were cool, but even like the Europeans that I played with, the Serbians were cool, the Lithuanians were cool, the Germans were cool as hell. And then when I went to Lisbon, you know, the Portuguese people were cool as hell too. So I got to meet all these different types of people and then play basketball with them. And it was cool to see how the Serbians swear when they mess up, and then like how the Portuguese people act when things aren't going their way. You know, that was super cool to me, and I loved doing it. About the game itself, I thought I fit in for the most part just because I'm huge and I can run and move. So they really loved me, like, and my ability to play pick and roll defense, honestly. What I didn't like was the practice. And that is just, I mean, every coach, I don't want to be talking shit, all right, but it seems like every coach in Europe thinks that the only way that their team performs is if they're in the gym with that coach as much as possible. And as an American, I just could not disagree more. You know what I'm saying? Americans sneak into the gym without their coach, just to be in the gym without their coach. And that was my main problem, is 2 practices a day, listening to the same shit over and over again. I think European basketball is super tactical. So you are going to learn a whole shitload about the game. And that is awesome. Like, even when I watch the game now, I'm like, holy shit, like, these guys, they don't know what they're doing over there. You know what I'm saying? They don't know the same amount of being tactical. And because over here is a lot of one-on-one, it's just a lot of flow. But to me, it's also a lot of soul. And I think the more you focus on tactics, the more you take away the soul of the game. And there was just seasons that I spent in another European country of just like, I don't even like this. Like, this is not even like, this is not why I started playing basketball. You know what I'm saying? This is not like the Dennis that, you know, fell in love with playing outdoors and playing pickup and just like doing his thing. I haven't seen that Dennis in a long, long time, you know, and this Dennis got to focus on, you know, 75 plays, running 5-on-0 every single morning and every single afternoon before the live practice. And it was just a lot of that. And then combined, I mean, I had great fans for the bulk of my career. That was super cool. But yeah, man, I mean, if you make it to the championship, you're over there for 10 and a half months. So you are coming back for 6 weeks and trying to see family and friends in a matter of 6 weeks while trying to rest your body, while trying to figure out what the hell you're gonna do next year, and while trying to prepare your body physically. So I didn't know how to balance that, and I obviously didn't do a good job of it. But it's a lot. Just like anything in life, right? Like, any journey in life is a lot, and it's never gonna be all good and it's never gonna be all bad. Like, it was, so I would say you gotta go try it, you know? Because I also don't like the fact that I'm imposing my own experience on other people. You know what I'm saying? Because there's, for anybody listening to this or wondering about my experience, that yours could be totally different. And there's a bunch of other players that go over there, have 20-year careers over there. You know what I'm saying? End up moving to that place. So don't let my shit, my emotional like response to an okay European career, don't let that deter you from your dreams or from your journey. Yeah, I think that's good enough for now. I feel like I was all over the place this week, but I'm gonna just make some minor edits and then just like fire away at this, because I think I'll get better as I go along. And again, if you want to know anything specific, if you want to know, I'm trying to give you tidbits so that you can wrap your head around this injury rehab process and also take some things away. If you want more things to take away, just ask me a question. Like, that's it, and I will respond to it in as much depth as you want, because I got the depth now. You know what I'm saying? I got the research, I got the stories, the anecdotal stories, that what I've been through, and I got my own intuition about what I think should happen. Because honestly, my shit works. You know what I'm saying? Look at the testimonials. Like, the stuff that I'm doing now really helps people feel better, and so I feel really good about that. And hopefully this podcast can help others that I guess don't want to pay me. I don't know. Yeah, that's it for this week. Thank you guys. Peace.